Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is Brian at Aim High presenting our new What's New in Catalina. Let's see, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully this answers any general questions and things like that that you may be wondering. If not, feel free to let us know and hopefully we can get that answered for you. So, what's really new in Catalina? The biggest thing is going to be applications. iTunes is no longer available. It has been split into 3 individual applications. We now have your Apple TV. Here we have Apple Music, Podcast, and Apple TV. All of these guys are going to be where you find your music, an individual platform for your podcast, and an individual platform for your Apple TV. At this point, you may be wondering, what do they look like? What can we do in them? But we will cover that a little bit further along in this course. So right now we're just going to proceed through this and, like I said, cover those individual applications later on. So now we come down to your 32-bit applications are no longer supported. What that typically is going to be any of your older applications. A lot of this is going to be anything that hasn't had an update in quite some time. A good way for you to check and see if your applications are supported, if you haven't updated, if you have updated, you're going to know pretty quick. But if you haven't updated yet, a good way for you to learn and see what applications are 32-bit and which ones are 64-bit. Again, the 32-bit being the ones that are no longer supported. So a good way to check is to click your Apple icon up top there on the left-hand side. From there, you're going to click on About This Mac from the drop-down menu that appears there. After that, you're going to click on System Report. After you click on System Report, you should have this menu here that pops up. If you look there on that highlighted side on the right side of the screen there, that is where you're going to notice anything that is 64-bit. Anything that says no there on that highlighted portion is going to be no longer supported. So if you haven't updated, a good thing for you to do is to either look for an update for that application. If not, contact them and see if they're planning on coming out with a 64-bit version of that application. Once you do click that update, if it does say no, then that application will not work, so please keep that in mind. Alrighty, so at this point you may be wondering, how do I synchronize my devices? With iTunes being gone, it makes it a little bit different than what we're used to as far as syncing our devices. What you'll do is click on Finder. Once you open up Finder there, you'll notice over here off to the left-hand side I've highlighted the locations. Under locations is actually where you will find your iPhone, iPad, or any iOS device that is connected as an external drive there or device. There is another way there also that I've highlighted to show your iPhone on the Wi-Fi network. So that basically means it's what we're used to, showing your iPhone on the network through iTunes and things like that. But with iTunes being gone, it will now populate your iPhone or iOS device right here under the locations drive with it being connected to Wi-Fi. So that's kind of helpful there. That way you don't have to do any tethering or have that wired connection there. As you can see from the screen here, it gives you the option to perform any manual backups, sync any music, any TV shows, podcasts, and things like that without actually having to go through to your podcast application. Everything is done here through Finder itself, so it's going to take some getting used to, but it still looks somewhat similar to what we had in iTunes there. Alrighty, so now we're going to take a look here at the Apple TV app. Once you click on that there, it's going to pull up a menu just like this. Feel free to browse and click on any of the Apple TV Plus features there. Apple TV also will find anything that you're tied into, like Hulu or Netflix occasionally, things like that. And like next episodes and things like that will be populated up there, as well as any TV shows or movies that you currently have in your library. This is actually where Apple TV puts a lot of your movies and things like that are stored on your computer. So we're used to going into iTunes again and you clicking on movies from there. However, from here is where you would find those movies and things like that that aren't music related. So that is Apple TV. Feel free to look around in there and just get familiar with how everything's laid out in there. It does look the exact same on an actual Apple TV, so the transition is minimal whenever you are switching from your Apple TV to your computer itself. Next up, we have podcasts. So if you click on podcast, it's actually going to pull up this menu here. It looks exactly like what you would see on your phone itself, except everything's a little bit more detailed out on these. Feel free to browse in there and click on what podcast you would like to follow and things like that. This also allows you to download any podcast episodes directly to your computer. That way you don't have to be connected to Wi-Fi or anything like that upon listening to them and things like that. It also will, your iPhone and your computer will also download the newest episode as soon as that's available, so keep that in mind. That is a feature that you have to select under your settings there, under preferences. So next up, we have your Apple Music. So Apple Music is going to look exactly like iTunes just about. The only thing that is different, if you notice, is that there is no more podcast and there is no more videos. Apple Music is strictly based towards your music. So if you click on there, it's going to give you access to anything that, if you're an Apple Music subscriber, it'll give you access to your Apple Music so that you can browse that. Otherwise, you can click and view anything that you have stored or purchased from iTunes itself directly on your songs list. One good thing to point out there is that it does list your iPhone as a device. So if you look right there on that left-hand side there, I've highlighted that the iPhone is actually populated as a device itself. So keep in mind that if you would like this to be wireless, then you do have to select that Wi-Fi feature back under your Finder preferences there. Otherwise, then you do have to have a cable in order for your iPhone to be populated like this under the devices there. Again, feel free to explore with the Apple Music app there. It looks just like your iPhone again, just a little bit different there, a little bit more detailed and a little bit more laid out there. Next up, we have Sidecar. What is Sidecar? So Sidecar is actually an option that allows you to view your iPad as a second screen. I'm going to show you a way to enable that. The quickest way is for you to click right there on System Preferences. Once you're in System Preferences, you'll notice that Sidecar is highlighted right there, but it is its own little feature. It is its own setting there. So after clicking in Sidecar there, you do get this pop-up menu. So this pop-up menu allows you to lay out your iPad screen how you would like it. So feel free to customize your iPad screen as to what you would like to view and things like that, or how you would like to view things. Notice that there is a highlighted drop-down box there that says Connect To. Once you have an iPad that is linked directly to your iCloud account, it must be using the same iCloud account as your computer. Once they are connected and linked and are on the same network and or connected via a cord, it will populate right here as an option for you to select from that drop-down menu. So keep in mind that it does have to be connected to your iCloud account directly. Otherwise, it will not give you that option there to select that as a drop-down option. Another way for you to view your iPad as a second screen is to click your external displays button up there at the top right hand side. If you notice there, you usually can connect to like an Apple TV or something like that outside of your display preferences, but at that point, if you notice there, your iPad is listed as a second display there. Once you select your iPad from that external display, you should get a secondary display on your iPad at that point. Alrighty, so here I'm going to show you a few new things that have changed with Catalina. This first one here is actually something that is not new. It's just something that I kind of want to point out, as I've seen quite a few clients come in and wonder what it is and what it does. If you notice down there in the dock is a rocket that is actually called your Launchpad. A lot of you may be wondering what the Launchpad is and what it does. If you don't have it on your dock, it basically means that you've just gotten rid of it. You can always put that or drag it back down there just like any application. However, if you do have it and you're wondering what it does, simply by clicking it, you're able to view your applications just like this. Like I said, this is the same as bringing your gestures over your trackpad and using the 4 fingers. The only difference being if you don't have those gestures or your trackpad doesn't work, you can always click on the Launchpad icon there. Alrighty, so next up we have reminders, and in reminders they've gotten quite a bit of a remake. If you look in there, there is a few more options as far as messaging when messaging a person, so you'll actually get reminded when messaging a person, letting you know, hey, you're talking to this person, you should probably speak to them about such and such. Other than that, you can it's got the typical reminders as far as like being reminded at a typical date and time, or at a this does look almost similar to the application in the iPhone. However, on the iOS app it is a little bit more user intuitive and things like that. I personally prefer using the iPhone version and just getting reminded on my laptop itself. Okay, so next up we have our system preferences. And once you click into your system preferences, you'll notice that it has a little bit of a different user interface. It is no longer grouped based off of the way it used to be in Mojave. And if you notice up top there, you actually have your Apple ID, your iCloud, and as well as your App Store information and things like that, and your family sharing option as well. Everything is managed through those 2 guys there. It is no longer any other applications like going into Apple Music and having to sign in through that guy. Everything is managed through this top portion here under System Preferences. Feel free to go through these and familiarize yourself with the layout and things like that. However, not much has changed on the settings portion of this other than that new sidecar feature and things like that. And the Apple ID being up top. Alrighty, so next up we have Maps. So the Apple Maps is a little bit different with the attention to detail there. So if you notice, there is a wide range of detail there. We are hovering right now over the Denver metro area. If you look there, it is a little bit more 3D and a little bit more detailed as far as streets go and things like that. Here I'm going to show you what it used to look like with a side-by-side comparison. So on the left there we have the old Apple Maps, and on the right side there we have the new and improved Apple Maps. So you can see there is a wide range of detail there. They added more streets. They actually used to use third-party applications to get their data to comprise their Apple Maps. However, about a year and a half ago, they started actually sending out cars just like Google Maps and things like that to help get more detail. They are currently working on getting a 3D overview of the entire US, so you should see that here shortly by the end of this year. So this next feature here is actually not part of the new system, but I do want to point it out as most of our clients don't really take advantage of this. This feature actually came out with the Mojave release. So if you will click on your Apple icon there up top on the left hand side, you will bring down your drop down menu. From there you will select About This Mac. After selecting About This Mac, you'll notice that your overview appears. Up top there on the third option, you'll notice an area that says Storage. After clicking Storage, it actually will switch over to a menu just like this. That is a direct layout of what is on your hard drive, and give it some time to index and you'll start to get a little bit more of the indexing, like videos, documents, and things like that. One good thing about this is that manage button. So once you click that manage button there, it's actually going to allow you to view this screen here. This screen is a breakdown of how to go through your files and see what is taking up so much space. So you notice on the left hand side there, it breaks down everything as far as like applications, books, documents, your iCloud drive, and lets you know how much everything is taking up space in those particular areas. Alrighty, so at this time I do want to point out at the bottom of that menu there is a review files button. After you click that, it will dive into detail as to what is taking up space and things like that. It gives you a little bit more of a broad overview and oversight of what documents you have and what size they are. So feel free to do that, and I would like to note that that is not an automated feature. That is something that we do have to go through and review. So if you want to take the time and go through that, that is always a beneficial thing to do. Next up we have security. So these are going to be the security changes in Catalina to look out for and to be aware of. So our first one up is that macOS Catalina makes apps jump through more hoops. Now what does that mean? That basically means that anytime you are needing to access a file on an external hard drive or on your downloads, your computer is going to prompt you based off of that specific application. Here is a broad overview of kind of what that may look like. Hopefully it's not as intense as this, but worst case scenario, just keep in mind that it's going to send you some notifications over there on the right hand side asking you if you want to allow them to send you the notifications, as well as allowing access to the actual drive itself or that location, like contacts, downloads, and things of that nature. Alrighty, so once you have figured out kind of what to approve and deny there, just make sure that you're approving the right things and things that aren't just kind of iffy there. After that, we have that the mail in macOS Catalina has been upgraded. If you are ever part of like a mailing list or something like that and you've unsubscribed and you are still getting those mail emails, this is a good way for you to kind of block those out and just get rid of them altogether. It doesn't have to be from a like a place you subscribe from. It can also be a specific sender. But again, you would have to just click on your email, click on the arrow next to the sender's name there, click that drop down menu, and it'll allow you to click block contact. Once you do that, all of your future emails from that person or from that organization will be put into your trash folder. You will have access to them if you wanted to via your trash folder. If not, by all means, just keep them there. But yeah, that's just one thing to look forward to. And last but not least, macOS Catalina actually formats your hard drive into 2 different containers. You may see this whenever you have your hard drives visible on your desktop or whenever you are performing any disk utility functions. That looks just like this there. If you notice, there's a Macintosh HD and a Macintosh HD Data. What that means is that top one there that says Macintosh HD is just strictly your operating system. So macOS Catalina actually splits those off into 2 different things where your data is kind of by itself and inaccessible until you actually operate and turn on your operating system. So your operating system is what unlocks your actual data drive there. But yeah, so in case you're ever wondering what that is. Alrighty everyone, that is everything with this workshop today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we can try to answer those as quickly as possible. Thanks for joining us.